What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video number 8 as part of the Building a React Portfolio Website series. In the last video, we tackled the About page right here, so that's now done. We can click on that, and that takes us to some other websites, right? So that works. That's pretty cool. Hopefully, you guys have your About page all set up. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the contact page, which as of now is looking pretty empty considering we haven't done anything with it yet. However, eventually, by the end of this video, it will look like this. We're just going to do the front end right here, so what we see in front of us. And then in the next video, which will be the last one, I believe, we will do the back end part of this. So basically, we're going to be running a really small API, which we'll be building with Express, that basically allows us to send this request to our API, which will then send the email on out to our users, or to whoever you want it to get sent to, rather. All right, so let's start doing that right now. First thing that we're going to do is we are going to make sure that we have Axios installed, because we will be using that as a part of this. Axios is a promise library, so it basically builds on top of the fetch library or fetch API that is native with the browser or with JavaScript. And then it allows us to do some other cool things with APIs or with promises and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and do that. We need to install that because, well, we don't have it apparently. So we will do npm install -- save Axios, which is without any caps, because I made the mistake of using caps. I actually don't know if it's cap sensitive. All right, so now that that's done, let's run this again. So just run npm run install, or run, that's not what I wanted to say. npm run start, rather. Now that we have that working, so we're back up and running here, what we're going to do is we're going to go on over to the contact page, and we're going to start taking this apart. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that we could easily create a separate component for the form. And in fact, if you guys are up for a challenge, I would suggest that you guys go ahead and make a form component that you will pass in the event handlers to, that basically just holds the form. The reason that I don't have a separate form component, so I just have my form inside of my contact page, is because when I was building this, I really didn't think that it was necessary to have an extra component for it, because my contact page is only the form. There's nothing really else there. I mean, yeah, sure, there's the hero, right? There's the hero right here, which has the name of the page. But other than that, it's just these two things. And so I really didn't think that there was too much of a reason to separate things that much. You might disagree. That's totally cool. But on a website as simple as this, I just didn't really feel a need. But teach their own. So let's get started now. We're going to actually go ahead and change this into a class-based component, because we're going to need to manage state. Let's go ahead and do this. We'll say contact page extends react.component, and we can get rid of that. And then what we can do is we will add a constructor here, which takes in props. This will be super props over here, and then this dot state is going to equal basically our form outline, the form structure, data model. So we'll have a name, and then an email, a message, disabled, and email sent. And I know I just copied and pasted it a bunch of times. The reason is just, I think it kind of helps to speed things up, even though you're going to change certain things. This is false. This is disabled. This is email sent, null, and then we're done. So now that we've done that, that doesn't work. We can fix that by making this be render instead of just return. and then like so. That now works. And now we're kind of back to where we were before. The next thing that we want to do is we want to start building our form. And after that, we will build the two methods, the handle field change and handle submit, that we need to actually make the form work. Although in this case, we're going to do everything about making the form work except for actually making the form work. We're not going to be able to say where exactly it's going to go, like API wise, but we will at least have the code so that everything does in fact work. So let's go ahead and start working. Actually, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we should do those two methods when we're doing the API. That probably makes a lot more sense because that's going to be kind of what that is. So we're just going to really be building the form and the page outline, and then we'll go ahead and make everything work in the next video. So this is what we're going to do. We'll have a div here. Then up top, we'll have the hero. Whoops. And the title will be this.props.title. Let's see if that works. Does not. That's because this is not imported, so I don't know why it imports certain things and not others, but either way, hero from, where are we? Gotta go up, hero, and that's it. That should now work. In fact, it does. Next, we will use our content component that we had just made, not context, but content. Right, so now that works. Now we can just test this in here and say hello just to make sure that that works. It does. Awesome. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a bootstrap form using our React Bootstrap library that we are using. So we will have form, not fern, form. Let's go ahead and make sure that is imported as well. So we'll do import form from, whoops, React Bootstrap / form. Cool. Then inside of here, we'll have a form dot group. Inside of this form dot group, we will have a form dot label. And this label will be full name, so we can save that and we can see that we now have that label showing up there. Next thing that we're going to want is a class name, which is actually going to be nothing, so I don't know why I have that in my other thing. But this will be HTML4, which is the same thing as just having a normal for attribute in normal, just straightforward HTML that's not using JSX. So this is a React thing here. And we will say full name. That's because we're going to be having the ID of this field be full name. Next, we will have form.control. And then inside of there, we will have, oh, no, not class name. We will have ID, force of habit. This will be full name. Then we'll have just name, and this will be name. Then we'll have the type, and this will be text. We will then have the value, so we want them to be able to see what's going on while they're typing, right? So we need the value to actually be whatever they're typing in. So we'll do this.state.name. That's why we had that stuff up there. And on change, actually, we don't have to put anything in right now. We're going to get an error. That's totally cool. That's because, actually, this is not an error. It's a warning. Basically, what this is saying is that, hey, you're giving this a value, but you're not doing anything when it changes. So, because of that, we're not going to let this be a changeable field. It's basically just going to be read only. And so what you'll see is that I can't type anything. I don't have a camera to show you guys, but I'm hammering on the keyboard, see? Move my mic closer. But nothing's changing. And that's the reason why, is because this isn't changing. Actually, you know what? What we can do, we can kind of make that work. We can add the handle change thing after we do that. We just won't do the part with Axios where we're actually trying to communicate with the server. So what we can do is we can say on change, this will be this dot handle change, just like that. Don't worry about that right now. It doesn't exist. That's okay. No worries there. All right, let's go and copy this form group. You don't have to if you prefer to type it, but for purposes of this video and speed, I'm going to copy it. Next, here for this for thing, this is going to be email. Likewise, we'll change this to email too. We're also going to change this to email here, the ID. Name should also be email. Text should be changed also to email. The value should be changed to email. So basically everything that has name or anything corresponding with this related to that, the first form, we're going to change that. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to do, it's going to be a little bit different here because this is a text area, not a regular form field. So this is going to be called a message. So everything here now that has email is going to be changed to message. So if you guys are using VS Code, and I would recommend VS Code, I use it and I really like it. If you highlight on something and then you have other ones that you want to select as well, you can hit Command or Control D and it'll go down the list, not up. It will get to the top ones eventually, but it'll go down the list and it'll select everything or all of those that are the same word. So now we can type at the same time and just say message, right? So that's cool. Next thing we want to do on here is for the type, we're going to take that away. And instead of type, we're going to say as. We're going to say text area, okay? So now we have our text area right there, you can see. We'll customize this a little bit by saying that we want the rows, the number of rows, so how high it is, to basically be more than what it is right now. So I'm going to do 3. Is that 3? Really? Is that how many I have over here? No, it's not how many I have. I have more. So do we get an error? No, we don't. Rows, that's why, because it's plural. And now this is, in fact, a little bit higher than what it was before. Last thing that we need to do is we need to add a button. And that's basically, actually, second last thing that we need to do. We're going to add a button. And this is going to be so that, you know, people can click submit, obviously. And we'll do that from here too. We'll save that. And we'll come back in here. We'll hit send. So that's looking good. And then what we want to do is I'm actually going to break this out on multiple lines because we're going to have a little bit here. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a class, class name. This will be D, inline, block, and the reason that we do this, we're going to actually come back to after we finish doing the button. We'll say the variant is primary. That's fine. That's what it already is, so that's cool. The type is going to be submit. And disabled will be equal to, not that, will be equal to this dot state dot disabled. All right, doesn't really change much of what we see right now, but we're going to come back to that. Now what we're going to do is what we're going to add some like feedback to the user. Basically, when they hit send, we're going to want to tell them, hey, this did send successfully or this did not send successfully. Okay? So let's go ahead and do that. What we're going to do is we're going to create this condition statement. We're going to say this.state.email sent equals true. And if it does equal true, we're going to have email sent. And not only are we going to do that, but we're going to add something in here that basically gives it a little bit of styling to kind of make it a little bit nicer. And then we're going to add some CSS as well. So we'll say D inline and success message email, and then we're going to change this one to email not sent. This will be if it's equal to false. And then here, instead of success, we'll just have, we will have error like that. Okay. Now what we're going to do is, well, we will need to make actually, you know what, we can do this now. We can say on submit, we will say this dot handle submit. Okay. And then we're basically going to go and now make those functions. So let's create two more functions here, two more methods rather. We'll say handle change, which will equal a function which will have the event. We will console log the event just so that we can see it while we're developing. We'll now set a const, and we'll say target will equal event dot target. Const, we'll call this one value, and value will equal target dot type equals if it's a checkbox, which we don't have, so you don't really need to do this. But in the case that maybe you want to say, hey, I want to sign up for a newsletter, and then you'll get to see that in the email that gets sent so that you can go and sign them up for a newsletter, or I agreed to some terms or whatever it is. You can tell if you do need a checkbox, you can tell if the checkbox is true or if it's false. So this will say target checked, otherwise target value. So what is this saying? This is saying that we're going to set the value to be, if the type of the input is a checkbox, then it's going to equal checked. And if the type of the input is not a checkbox, then it's just going to equal whatever the value that was typed in, because it would be a typed in value or some sort of chosen value or something like that. So we have that. And then we'll say const name is going to be equal to target dot name, and that's it. Okay. Now below that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna say this dot set state will be equal to to name and then value. Whoops, I don't need that. So now notice that we no longer have this error here, or this warning here. That went away. And also we can now type, and we're console logging every single event. So we're going to get rid of this console log for the event because that's a waste and we don't actually need it. It was just for demonstration purposes. But now we can type in all of these and everything works. The last thing we're going to do in this video is the handle submit thing. We're not going to go all the way because we don't actually have our API set up. But what we will do is kind of fake as much as we can here. So let's go ahead and create another method. This will be equal to another method here. We'll say also that this is an event. And then inside of here, we're going to say event.preventDefault. Prevent default. And the reason is because the default is that if we were to, I'll actually show you this with that commented out. If I were to do this and hit submit, or send, you'll notice that it refreshes the page, and we don't want that. That is not good. So prevent default basically makes it so that it prevents the default behavior, which is to refresh. So if I type this in, now nothing happens because we are preventing the default behavior of refreshing the page. Because it would probably be trying to go to whatever page or whatever file we're basically telling it to use, except that in this case, we're not. The next thing that we need to do is we're going to do set state. So this.set state. Whoops. And we're going to set disabled to true because we want to disable the ability for someone to submit twice, because we don't want them to be sending a lot of emails. We don't want them to accidentally hit it twice and send 2 emails. And what we also don't want is we don't want them to look at it and say, oh, it's taking a long time. Why isn't this working? Or I didn't get any feedback. Did it really work? They hit it 10 times in a row. And now all of a sudden your API's got 10 requests when all it really needed was 1. And I'll take it a step further. Note that you have to keep in mind what services you're using, because the service that we're going to be using to send the emails is called SendGrid. And they actually limit the amount of emails that you can send to 100 per day, which is pretty generous if you have a really small website, or, you know, if your website doesn't get that much traffic or whatever the case may be. But if someone's going to sit there and click it a bunch of times by accident, or maybe on purpose, then 100 emails that can be sent per day isn't really that much, and we definitely don't want to allow them to use up our limit so easily. So that's why we're going to disable this when they hit submit. And only once it comes back successfully that whatever they were trying to do worked, then we will allow them to submit another one. However, we're also going to display those messages that basically say, hey, like, this was in fact sent back properly, right? So let's take a look at also really quick. The last thing we're going to do in this video, we need to add the CSS for those messages, those feedback messages. So we'll do success message. This is inside of the index.css file, by the way. The color will be, now I'm going to copy this color over because I'm using it already and I like it. The color is going to be, feel free to use the same one, 57A773, and the padding will be set to 10 pixels top and bottom and 15 pixels left and right. Let's copy and paste this, and we will change the word success to be error. And we'll change the color to be this like red color here, EE6352. Now we're going to refresh that. The only way that we can now see this is if we also now set this to email sent equals false. So let me just demonstrate what that looks like. So if I just type something in there, we have that, and it says email not sent. I'll just demonstrate now what the true looks like. Have that, and email sent. So we can kind of see how this is going to look when it comes back and it is successful. So that's pretty much it for this video. In the next video, which is going to be the final video, we're going to be doing all back-end stuff and setting up SendGrid so that we can basically, send something, and that it'll work the way that we want it to, and that we'll be able to get emails. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, definitely like and comment down below. Let me know how I'm doing. Also, let me know what kind of videos you want to see me make after this series is over, since we only have one video left. And subscribe if you're liking the videos. Please, I really enjoy making them for you, and I want as many people to see them as possible. Hopefully I'm helping some of you guys out. So let me know down in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.